welcome to the deep dive. Today we've got a really compelling personal story to get into.
Yeah, this one comes from a listener. It's about their sister-in-law's wedding experience.
And it centers kind of unexpectedly on a seating card and, well, the amazing reaction of her young son.
Mm-hmm. The source is a written narrative. It's a first-hand account from Naomi, that's the sister-in-law, detailing what happened at this wedding reception.
Right, it's quite a vivid piece of writing.
It really is. You feel like you're there.
So our mission today, what we want to do is really unpack the layers here. We're looking at identity, those societal labels we all encounter, family dynamics.
And maybe ultimately what this whole thing tells us about self-worth. You know, finding your voice.
Exactly, standing up for yourself. Okay, so let's dive in. The story starts with Naomi feeling, well, a bit hesitant about even going to her sister-in-law Sarah's wedding. She's attending as a single mother.
And weddings, they can sometimes feel like they put a spotlight on traditional family setups, right? So if you're maybe outside that specific picture, it can feel a bit awkward. Or highlight your situation in a way you didn't ask for.
That feeling seems to have just exploded when Naomi actually saw her seating card. It wasn't just Naomi.
No, it read, Naomi's single mother waitress.
Oof, you can just feel the shock, the hurt.
And interestingly, the narrative makes it clear it wasn't the single mother part. She was proud of her son, proud of being his mom.
It was the waitress. Being reduced to her job title in that context.
Mm-hmm.
That's what felt, well, demeaning.
It's really stark when you contrast it with the other cards, right?
Look.
You had bride's friend, groom's family, best man, roles connected to the wedding itself. Or to the family.
Relational roles. Roles of honor, even.
Exactly. But labeling Naomi by her job, it sort of pinned her value in that room purely to her profession. Like her family connection didn't matter as much.
It erases the personal connection almost, which naturally set off this huge internal conflict for her. She felt, diminished.
But she also recognizes the facts, right? She is a mother. She does work as a waitress.
Right. But as she puts it, those titles don't even begin to cover who she is.
And that really speaks volumes about how limiting labels can be. They grab one facet, one small piece, and ignore everything else. The whole person. Her writing, her personality, her relationship with her brother, all sidelined for waitress.
So initially, she really didn't want to go. She felt that sting so strongly.
Yeah, the narrative says she seriously considered just staying home.
But in the end, that sense of obligation, to her brother, to Sarah, it won out. She decided to go, made the effort, even mentions not having particularly fancy clothes.
Which tells you something about those pressures, right? Especially family ones, that feeling of duty, wanting to keep the peace, maybe.
Definitely, even when you're hurting.
So she arrives. The setting is described as a grand ballroom. She immediately feels out of place.
Yeah, surrounded by fancier outfits, maybe feeling a bit self-conscious. That initial discomfort amplified.
But her son, Ethan, who's 7, he becomes her anchor, her little source of strength.
It's interesting how kids can do that, isn't it? Ground you in these stressful adult situations.
Totally. They're just present, authentic. Their love is unconditional. They're not usually caught up in the same social anxieties we are.
Right. He probably just saw his mom.
Exactly. Reminded her of what's really important, maybe cutting through some of that external noise.
And then the moment arrives, they get to their table, and there it is again, the name tag. Single mother waitress, bold print.
And all that hurt, that frustration she felt earlier just comes rushing back. The writing suggests it's almost a physical wave hitting her.
Why do things like that, seemingly small things like a name tag, carry so much emotional weight?
Well, I think because they tap into something fundamental. Our need to be seen, to be valued for who we are, not just a function or a label. Especially in public. It felt like a public declaration that reduced her right there in front of everyone. That feeling of being devalued. That it's powerful and painful.
But then, Ethan, her son, in this moment that feels like the absolute core of the story, he just innocently asks, "What's that stupid name tag?"
Just pure, unfiltered curiosity. No idea about the social baggage attached.
What's so powerful about that innocence?
Well, kids often cut right through the nonsense, don't they? The assumptions, the biases adults carry around.
Yeah.
He just sees a label that doesn't match his reality of his mom, and it highlights how absurd it is, really, to boil her down like that. His innocence lets him speak a truth maybe the adults wouldn't dare to.
And what happens next is just,
Yeah.
wow. He doesn't hesitate. Loud enough for nearby tables to hear, he just declares it, "My mom is not a waitress."
Goes on. She's not single mother waitress. She's a superhero. She works so hard to take care of me, and she's the best mom ever.
Can you imagine Naomi's feeling in that moment? That mix of like mortification, but also this overwhelming pride.
Oh, completely. It must have been intense. And that defense from a child, it's so impactful because it's just pure.
Unconditional.
Exactly. He's not thinking about status or jobs. He's speaking from his heart, his direct experience of her love, her effort. It's this blast of emotional truth, unfiltered and real.
It reminds everyone there of her worth through the eyes of the person who knows her best, in a way.
Absolutely.
So the reaction from the other guests, predictable maybe. Silence first, then whispers. Some awkward laughter, the narrative says.
You can just picture the ripple going through the room, the sudden shift.
What do you think was going through their minds?
Probably a whole range of things. Some just awkwardness, right? Unsure how to react to a kid's outburst at a wedding.
Right.
Others maybe genuinely uncomfortable with the challenge to the unspoken rules. Maybe some didn't even get why it was a big deal, found it funny without seeing the hurt.
It shows how differently people read these situations.
Definitely. Then Sarah, the bride, she steps in,
Yeah.
tries to smooth it over.
Calls it a misunderstanding, asks everyone to focus on the wedding.
But Ethan, he's not having it. He keeps insisting, my mom is so much more than a waitress. Bless him.
Why do you think Sarah's attempt to just move past it wasn't maybe the best approach?
Well, her intention was likely just to restore calm at her wedding, which is understandable.
Sure.
But by calling it a misunderstanding, she kind of inadvertently brushed past Naomi's feelings, minimized Ethan's powerful point. It avoided the why. Why was that label hurtful?
Leaves Naomi feeling unheard, maybe. Invalidated.
Could be. And this seems to be the catalyst for Naomi. Seeing her son stand up for her like that, it gives her the strength.
She finds her own voice.
Yes. She speaks up, she acknowledges her roles, she's a writer, she's a mother, and yes, she works as a waitress.
But crucially,
She says, those things don't define all of who she is. She refuses that limited box.
that's a huge moment for her, isn't it? Taking back control of her own narrative.
It really is. It's about empowerment. Shifting from feeling like a victim of this label to actively saying, no, this is who I am, takes guts to do that, especially then and there.
And the silence that follows her statement, the narrative calls it deafening.
Wow. Yeah, you can feel the weight in that description.
What does that silence tell you?
I think it's a moment of collective discomfort, maybe. Perhaps some recognition dawning on people. Her words broke the script, forced everyone to confront what just happened. The assumptions were suddenly out in the open.
So the immediate aftermath, still tense, awkward. Naomi notices people whispering, looking over.
And then there's this specific conversation with Emily, who's Sarah's best friend.
Right. Emily comes over and essentially tells Naomi to, quote, pick her battles.
And kind of excuses Sarah, saying she lives in a different world.
What's going on there with that advice?
Well, Emily might think she's being pragmatic, practical advice, but it really highlights how social inequalities can get brushed aside.
Like, just put up with it.
Sort of. Suggesting she should endure it because, well, the implication is maybe she's in a less privileged spot. And the different worlds comment, it subtly reinforces this idea that maybe people in Sarah's world don't have to think about the impact of their actions.
But Naomi, despite what Emily says, she decides internally, nope, I'm not backing down on this, not inside myself.
And that feels really key, doesn't it? A turning point in how she sees herself.
Definitely.
She's not looking outside for validation anymore. She's not letting their view dictate her worth. That internal strength, that's powerful, much more than getting an apology even.
Then later, there's this really lovely moment. She's on the dance floor with Ethan.
Yeah. He just tells her how much he loves her, admires her.
And then he says this line, just floors me coming from a 7-year-old. You're already perfect. Don't let anyone make you feel like you're not.
Oh, wow. Just straight from the heart. Simple, unwavering belief.
Such a powerful counter-narrative to that label she was given.
Completely. His unconditional love just cuts through it all. It reminds us that real worth isn't about jobs or status. It's inherent. It's about love.
It's a massive dose of perspective.
Truly. And eventually, Sarah does offer an apology. Quietly.
Maybe awkward, maybe not perfectly expressed, but it happens.
Yeah. Perhaps Ethan's reaction or the general discomfort maybe sunk in a bit. Could be social obligation. Could be a glimmer of understanding Naomi's hurt. Hard to say for sure.
But the real resolution seems to happen inside Naomi.
Yeah.
She has this realization that her own self-worth is what matters.
Exactly. The quiet drive home, thinking about Ethan, finding this sense of peace. It all points to that internal shift.
She understands her value isn't based on what's on a name tag or what anyone else thinks.
Mm-hmm. Embracing her authentic self, all of it. The writer, the mom, the waitress, everything else. That's where she finds her peace. That's the real win.
So, wrapping this up, this deep dive into Naomi's story, it really shines a light on how much labels and assumptions can affect us, even subtle ones.
Yeah, and the courage it takes to push back against them, plus the incredible power of love and belief, especially from family, from a child in this case.
The real aha moment for me is Ethan's perspective. It's so unfiltered.
Right. It's like this potent reminder that our identity is so much bigger, so much richer than any single external marker. It's who we are, not just what society or even a seating card says we are.
His innocent view just cut through all the layers, revealed that fundamental worth.
Beautifully put.
So here's something for you, our listener, to think about. Consider the labels you run into, maybe ones put on you, or even ones you find yourself applying to others, perhaps without really thinking.
Yeah, and ask yourself, how might shifting your perspective on those labels, or maybe getting that kind of clear-eyed support from someone important in your life, how might that empower you to define yourself truly on your own terms?
Something to mull over. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.